Alright, all you graveyard shift racers out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And despite our number of stunts for this week, folks, this week's stunt of the week goes to none other than Captain Sing with their screenshot from the video game Shady Night. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this stunt for the stunt of the week for this week, well folks, anybody who can take out a multitude of enemies using Pete Townsend slides, different forms of arrows, even fire arrows at a moment's notice, and also able to chuck a sword at an enemy while blocking that same arrow with the same sword he threw at him, definitely deserves to be the stunt of the week, and most likely in an action film that may be coming to theaters near you within the next couple of months. But besides action movie stunts that were most likely featured in a movie I most likely saw last year into this year, I think it's time for us to get ready to rev our engines to check out which sort of cool tracks we can use to kick off this brand new year on the right foot for a very special year-starting Year of the Fist edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And the first track that we have up comes from the creator MBurger39 with his said track MV89 Chipale Raceway. And this track has to be possibly one of the shortest tracks we had a chance to mention during the top 5 tracks of the week or the month, but probably one of the most dangerous tracks you'll ever see today, because not only it features a whole series of different hairpin turns, but also the possibility of a car wreck to happen at a moment's notice during this track is highly likely. And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there who knows how to handle those hairpin turns is to definitely make sure you pick a car with good handling and definitely get a good feel for the track before you decide to race down it at full speed. Because if you do something like I did while riding a motorcycle, let's just say you'll crash into a wall and most likely fly head over heels over your very bike or vehicle that you decide to ride in. Which Maestro decided to remind me that every single vehicle across the board can be raced with this said track. And as another hint, not any of the vehicles with weapons that are on it. So yeah, you can't miss with any vehicle that you decide to use for this track as long as it has good handling. And the next track that we have up comes from Genova with his said track, G93 Storm Drain Storm. And this track being short but at the same time sweet with plenty of fire and lightning that could take place during it in the form of rockets and boosters that you could use during the said track, it's a very quick yet dangerous track as well that features only off-road vehicles. And that's a little bit of a heads up for you race fans out there who likes to ride the tubes in the underground tunnels. Make sure you know where the end of the tunnel is while you're racing on this said track, because if you don't, let's just say while racing upside down and shoot your way out of that said tunnel, it will cost you during this race if you don't know how to bring your vehicle back down the ground level, because you will crash into the ground and most likely trip up several vehicles along the way, most likely giving your opponent a good head start on the lead. So yeah, definitely know your end for the tunnels in this said track, because that'll make the world of difference from worst place or first place. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator Bay Cruz with his said track, Courts International 2. And the reason why in the world we picked this track for this week, not only because it's a pretty night track that involves you using not only motorcycles, sports classic, compacts, coupes, muscles, sedans, sports, supers, and even SUVs, but also because it reminds me of the intermediate track from Ridge Racer Revolution. And as a matter of fact, Maestro said this is a upgraded version of one of the tracks we mentioned last year. Nice! And And the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is to make sure you pick a car with great handling, especially while you're heading down that straightaway of this said track, because if you go way too fast down that straightaway, let's just say there's a high possibility you will miss the checkpoint number 32 along the way, and most likely run into one of the barriers or even the trees that surrounds this said track. And it's not the trees that he added in this track, it's the trees that are around this said area itself. Natural trees. Thank you for that answer, Maestro. You'll run into natural trees, which will cause a natural disaster during this said race. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator Vintage99 with his said track, Mario Kart Luigi Circuit. And the reason why we decided to add this little bit of nostalgia for this week, not only because it does feature the brand new carts that you got for free, a part of the Cayo Perico heist, but it also features a couple of other cool cars that are all featured across the board, with the exception of the weaponized vehicles that you know and love from the other prior DLCs that was included in this game. And the only tip of advice we have for you fans out there for this said racetrack is be careful on that wall ride with the boosters, because at a moment's notice, you could miss the checkpoint or the high possibility you can fly off the very track itself. Especially if you have one of those racers that T-bones your car, which will leave you boned during this said race. So be careful with that booster, you'll be just fine. And the last but not least track that we have up for this week comes from the creator Pt.5, nice name by the way, with his said track known as Waterfall of Junes. Or Jones? You know, we'll go with Junes. And this track, folks, has to be probably one of the most dangerous tracks we've mentioned to date, because not only it involves a whole bunch of Matchbox crazy figure eight like action, but also toward the end of this race features several traps and tricks that will cause you to lose your car at a moment's notice. So the only tip of advice I have for you fans out there in a track that involves every car across the board is to make sure you pick a car with great handling and yet with high acceleration as well, so you can quickly recover to make your way back into this race that has no barriers as well. And as another bit of a hint, make sure you watch out for your opponent as well during this track, because if they knock you off the track, let's just say it's gonna take a while for you to recover during this race. So avoid that at all costs, even though the percentage of you hitting your opponent during this said race is pretty high. Just warning you right now. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any of the tracks that we mentioned for this week in playlist form, you can head on over to the socialclub.rockstar games page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and just search for the playlist entitled Jumpin' New Year to check it out for yourselves. And just as a little bit of a heads up, this week's playlist of tracks will get you well over and upwards of $150,000. So make sure you bring your friends and share the reward of good money that we were able to give you to kick off your new year. And with that said, folks, we might as well head back into that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Under the Radar for this week, right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned.